Now calling the Ripon City Council regular meeting to order. You want to do, what?
Salute the flag.
We'll just salute the flag and then you'll do it? Okay, that's fine. Okay, so,
Sure.
yeah.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you in the evening hour and we thank you for the many blessings that we enjoy living here in Ripon. We pray for all those who participate in tonight's meeting and that decisions will be made that are good for our community and in the best interest of our citizens. We pray all this in Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Set down, sorry. Down now. Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, I'll now report out of the closed session. Council did meet in closed session to receive some salary survey information. Staff was given direction, but no further action was taken. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Lisa, roll call?
Councilmember Leo Zuber.
Present.
Mike Ristusha.
Present.
Dean Euchre.
Here.
Vice Mayor Daniel DeGraff.
Here.
Mayor Jake Parks.
Here.
I will now open up the Ripon City Council meeting to public comments. These comments are intended for anything not on the agenda. If you have anything to say, please come up, state your name and address at the podium. Seeing nobody, we will go ahead and close the public comment section. And the approval of the minutes.
I'll move to approve. As soon as I get my little thing.
You gotta click this on.
Oh, there we go.
I'll second that.
So we got a mover, we've got a second. Is it not working for you, Leo?
It is now.
It wasn't working on
Is that for both of the minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was mine.
Yeah. So, now move on to the approval of the agenda. Does anybody want to pull anything?
Yes.
Councilman Zuber, what would you like to pull?
1.3B and C. Oh, and 1.3D also.
D.
And 1.4D.
D. Okay, does anybody else on the council want to pull anything?
Can I pull the rest of them? Just kidding.
No, you cannot.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Second.
All right, moving on to the consent calendar.
I'll move to approve the consent calendar as amended.
Second.
Okay. Councilman Zuber? You're up.
1.3B and C are sort of together in my mind. I think I understand what's going on. My concern is the difference between a developer and a business owner. If a business owner were to come in and want to build a building to put a business in, you can pretty much assume it's going to happen. We waive the fees, they put the business in, they start generating sales tax, we start getting our money. A developer, on the other hand, could come in, want to put a building in, and that building could sit there empty for a year, 2 years, if they can't get, and we've waived the fees, and it just takes longer and longer and longer to get the money back. I understand, you know, JKB and their thing is, it's still not full, and it's been done for a year. And if it's deferred, the sales tax isn't gonna come for a while. If it's a new guy, it could be even worse. So I'm wondering, I guess ultimately I'm wondering, can we approve this thing with the condition that we come back and look at this some more, because I'm really concerned about giving somebody, and I realize it's left to the city and it comes to the council, but we could be jumping all over the map. And I'm a person that doesn't like to do that. I think there ought to be, you know, maybe they have to come in with a certain percentage of the square footage under lease or under agreement or something so that we know it's gonna happen. So I guess my question is, can 1.3B be approved, conditioned on a review within, say, 6 months? And then we can go ahead and approve C, get that over with, because I understand that situation. But I just think this thing needs to be looked at a little more. I want to stimulate business, but I don't want to put the city at risk while we're doing it.
But we certainly could bring that back within the next 6 months. And there's no project in the wings right now that would,
Okay.
that we're having discussions like this with. So we have time to bring that back.
You're okay with that too? Then can I make a motion that we approve 1.3B, subject to a review of the policy within 6 months?
Second, I agree with that.
You want to take this one separate, or you want to do?
Well, we do them all separate anyway,
Yeah.
so I'll just
Okay.
get it over with. And then C, I would just make a motion that it be approved,
Okay.
so we can move forward with JKB.
Second.
We got a mover, we got a second. Okay.
No, we have a mover and a shaker.
All right, D.
D, it's a question of process. This resolution says that it's going to the planning commission so that they can see if it meets all the rules and regulations. Then does it come back to us? Or if the planning commission says it's okay, that's the end of it?
It has to come back to city council for the actual vacating the public utility.
Okay, so it'll be back here again.
This
Okay,
is just kicking off like the very first step of this process.
okay. Ed,
Okay,
you want to?
mover,
And then the other one is 1.4D?
D, that's what you just did.
no, we're on 1.3D.
Well, I was
We're taking them
1.3D,
separate.
now I'm on 1.4D.
We didn't vote on the line.
Well, you want to do it? We can.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and do it.
I'll move to approve 1.3D.
Okay, so we got a mover, second. All right,
And then 1.4D, this says that it's gonna cost $40,000 to put that sidewalk and stuff in. What was the price when it was an alternate originally?
The
Because I
price-
remember the comment was, one of our councilmen said he could do it for half the price. Well, I don't think this is half, but I'm just wondering how much we save by pulling it off and then coming back with a change order.
So we saved 15,828, and the difference is because we're getting a gate and vinyl slats, and if we were to pay the alternate, that would be a concrete block wall with roof. It'd be a structure. And so now we're saying instead of that block wall with roof, we'll do a gated with vinyl
A
slats.
fence around,
okay.
Right,
no top.
correct.
And not,
And that's
We don't
the
have a- Not
difference.
completely.
So
We don't have an issue with no top, because I know in some towns that's a big deal now because of homelessness and all that sort of thing.
Historically, in private properties, we do require it, but because this is a city park, we don't typically put trash enclosure with a roof in a city park. But it's entirely up to you if that's what you decide you want.
Is there going to be a lot of trash generated from that site to begin with?
I would expect so.
Food,
When they have something.
They have
yeah, 'cause it's
concessions
food.
in there and things?
they all bring their own food.
Yeah.
those people.
Plastic, cardboard, things like that.
Well, the big thing that, my understanding is the big thing that the roof does is keep people from crawling over the top and getting in there. And now we're gonna have the top open, so that John or Jane homeless person can climb in there, throw the top open and sleep all night.
Yeah, and the one thing I would add is normally in our parks, like at Missland Sports Park and some of the other improvements out there, we have not even provided any enclosure. We just have the tubbies or just out in the open. So here we did have the vinyl fence, but like I said, normally in like the 4 softball fields that we just did, there's no enclosure at all.
There's just trash cans out there
Right.
that stand open.
Same at, community center in the back there, there's no enclosure. Typically, you'll have those in the commercial areas, like we did it at the parking lot we redid downtown by Pizza Plus. We did have their enclosure with the top and everything like you're talking about. Typically with the parks areas, we have not been doing that.
What if we just, what did you say? A curb?
Just get rid-
And
throw the
did it
fence,
that
just-
way, we can always add the fence and stuff later or something if the need comes up.
We certainly could do that.
Just pour a slab with a curb around it so the dumpsters stay in place and get rid of the fence altogether. Can always build a block wall or a.
Yeah, we can
chain
always
fence
do it
if you
later.
want.
So the motion
is
would
that
be
curb-
to
Get rid of this
reject the
contract.
change order and just go with a curbed
You
area.
could, I believe you could do this is a not to exceed price, so you could accept the change order with those modifications, and I'll just eliminate the gated portion.
So moved.
Not to exceed 5,000.
Yeah. All right, so moved. Do we have a second?
Yeah.
All right, we got a mover, we got a second. Okay, seeing none. That looks like it's everything. All right, moving on to 2A. This resolution adopts the City of Ripon's discontinuation of residential services for non-payment policy, which incorporates state mandated requirements set forth in the Water Shutoff Protection Act. Who would like to take this word salad?
I will, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, Lisa.
Yes, so this policy piggybacks on the ordinance that we approved or that was adopted in the January meeting in regards to Senate Bill 998, which was passed in September 2018 by Governor Brown. In essence, this SB 998 prohibited the discontinuation of residential service for non-payment until a payment by a customer has been delinquent for at least 60 days. So within the ordinance that we passed, it was noted that a service disconnection policy needed to be adopted within 30 days of the effective date of the ordinance. So this policy sets forth the way that we will discontinue residential service for non-payment, and it is in accordance with SB 998. In essence, our shut-off day for water is the 3rd Tuesday of the month, which puts us at about 45 to 50 days past the billing date. So what we're doing is we are actually skipping a month and putting it out to about 75 to 80 days, which will be in compliance with SB 998, that they have to be delinquent for at least 60 days. So for the month of, what this means is for the month of February, we will not have a shut-off day. It will be the 3rd Tuesday of March. And in order for them to have their services reconnected, they will have to pay the delinquent balance, which would be their February and January bills, leaving 1 month outstanding, continuing to do that on an ongoing basis if they continue to be on the shut-off list. This policy also sets up the deferred payment and the amortization plans, which is required under SB 998. And there's also a bunch of different ways that we need to notice the customers, which has been written out in this policy as well, so that we are all in compliance with SB 998. It's super confusing, but it's super fun.
Only if you like being confused.
I'm glad they're spending their time on important things in
Yeah, how much
Sacramento.
money did the state waste putting this together?
No,
Okay.
That's what I wanna know.
Do we have a motion? Do we have any
I
comments?
make a motion.
I got a question.
You got a question. Councilman Zuber.
On page 124, number 3, it's at the top of the page. I don't understand how that works. I'm gonna give you an example. let's assume that I build, well, we used to call them granny flats, a separate unit on my property. They're in the back, somebody's living there, renting the house, but their water comes through my meter. So they're not paying for the water, I am. I mess up and I get 60 days delinquent with you. So you're gonna cut off my water, that means that my tenant loses his water too.
That's correct.
Okay, now,
You are a horrible landlord.
well, I've been called worse, so I can live with that. Let's assume that when I put it in there, I put a separate meter in for them. So now, they screw up, theirs is cut off, but I don't lose mine.
That's correct.
Is that what we do now?
We currently don't have any homes like that. So if you have a house in the back, it's on one meter.
Okay, and if my renter doesn't pay what he's supposed to pay for the water, I can shut him off at the back and you don't even know it.
There's no way to tell what the renter is using in the back.
Right, that's what I say. That's between the two of us.
You're right.
Okay,
The renter in the back, I don't believe has a shut off, so you wouldn't, unless the homeowner
you'd never
installed
know
one.
about it, but I would.
Yeah, unless the homeowner installed one,
right? Trust me.
And Leo, just, one of the changes with the law though is, in your situation, if you do have, there's times when landowners are paying the utility bill for a renter. So, with the law now, normally we would just communicate with whoever's paying the bill. But now if a landlord at a different different address does not pay the bill and they get the delinquent notice, with the state law now, the city's required to send, the delinquent notice both to the landowner and the property address.
The landowner and the occupant, in other words.
Right, and I believe, if
Okay.
I remember correctly, the renter does get told that they can sign up on their own to become their own,
Just pay for their own utilities.
Pay for their own water.
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
but that is a change, with the law.
okay.
And another change, if I may, just to bring it to everyone's attention, is that in the past, we sent out courtesy notices to let people know that their water was being disconnected. A change for this policy and the timing of how we send out the bills. The actual bill, when somebody is 2 months behind, is gonna be the disconnection notice.
Pay your water bill, folks.
That's right.
Simple as that.
All right, so do we have a motion on the floor?
So moved.
We got a mover. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Moving on, public hearings, 3A. So, the public hearing for annual review of current development agreements by the city council to determine whether or not there has been compliance in good faith with the terms and conditions thereof. Ken?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow council members. It's that time of year again. We get to do this every year to go through the development agreements that we currently have that are active and to make sure they're complying with all the terms and conditions. This is a recommendation from the planning commission that they have reviewed all the development agreements, and this is their report to city council that they are all in good standing. And so I won't go through the staff report in a lot of detail. I would rather go through, I have a slide presentation here on kind of our past year's growth for you guys, just to show you where we stand. And at the end, I'll be happy to answer any questions on either staff report or the PowerPoint. So this is kind of a look back at 2019. At the beginning of 2019, we had a population of about 16,613 residents here in town. We issued 70 single-family permits over this past year. As you recall, I think roughly about 140 or 150 permits can be allocated out on a yearly basis. That's about a 3% growth, or a 2.5% growth rate at the 140 permits. So this number, what you've seen this year with the 70 permits, is about a 1.2% growth rate in dwelling units for this year. And then, so based on the census data with 2.93 people per household, roughly. We should have a population at the beginning of this year, about 16,818. We don't have the numbers yet from the Department of Finance for the estimates for January 1st of 2020, but this is probably fairly close to this when they do come out, because they actually figure off of our building permits. And this is a kind of a look at the last 10 years. I know it's a little difficult to read, but going back to 2010, it shows you the population across the bottom there of what the population was, and then actually the growth rate for that year. So we did have a spike, obviously, in 2017. There was quite a bit of building that went on that year. So we had about a 5% growth cap. I think that's kind of right when we adopted our permit allocation schedule and our growth cap. So after that, you can see it's kind of ratcheted back down, and we control that a little bit better, so we're not growing more than 3% in any given year. So with that being said, it's for 2019 that we have about a 1.23 growth rate there, as we showed on the last slide. This is a little difficult to see. Let me go back a second on that one and zoom in for you guys. We keep track of every single parcel in town and every dwelling unit in town, so just so we can know where we're at any given time. So this is kind of a breakdown of how we separate the dwelling units out in Ripon. From this chart here, you can see we have about 4,505 single-family dwelling units, and then it breaks it down further into other units as well, second dwelling units, duplexes, triplexes, and such, multifamily. So there's about 5,683 dwelling units within the city of Ripon. That equates to roughly population, if you're just using calculation's sake, of 15,928, which is a little bit off of what the other estimate is from the Department of Finance. And then we actually break it down even further into lot size. We try to, as you can see, kind of the Ripon's development philosophy here on the right. So these lots under 3,000 square feet, it's what we consider high density. So those are going to be your apartment complexes. And then we got medium densities in the blue. Doesn't show up very blue on your screen, but it does on mine. And then the green are what we call kind of like Ripon's staple housing right there. That's your low density lots, anywhere from 6,000 square feet up to 10,000 square feet. And so we kind of keep the percentages there. The desired percentages are on the right. So 50%, we shoot for about 50% of kind of the staple lots that people enjoy seeing here in town. As you can see, we're currently at 52.8% with our current development. So just a kind of a shot of where we're at in comparison to where our development philosophy is. It's not too far off. I mean, we're fairly close on those. And this is just more of a visual representation of that, what you were just looking at. So obviously the red here on the chart is what we'd like to be at, and the blue is what we're actually at with our residential lots here in town. I did take a look at over a 12-month period of time. There was no data available for December 2019, so we went from December 2018 to November 2019. This is the number of houses that sold by month in Ripon. That's either new homes or existing homes over the last 12-month period. And then on the bottom there, you can see the median sales price of those homes. So over that 12-month period, there was 238 homes that sold within Ripon, and with an average median sales price during that time of about $475,000. So you can see, obviously during the winter months, it seems to slow down a little bit. But by the end of the year, we're kind of the median sales price is back up. It's about $517,600. It was in November. So prices are starting to creep back up, obviously, there. And let's see. So then what's upcoming? It's up there's currently the 3 single-family residential projects that are actively building. However, there's not a lot of lots with those 3 projects. The vineyards out there by Minson Sports Park, they have pulled all their permits. They have about 20 lots they're finishing up, so they'll be finished up here shortly with that project. Alexandra Place, it's at the corner of Vera and Doak Boulevard. It's a small little subdivision of 19 lots. He's got only about 10 of those left, so they're about halfway through. And then the verandas, which is located on North Ripon and Miljo, it's been building out for quite some time, but there's only 2 lots remaining there. So that's all we have kind of actively building at this time. We do have there's 2 medium-sized or medium-density residential projects that have been approved that are looking to find builders. They're looking to sell the projects to builders. That's the Meadowwood and Meadowbrook projects. Those are the 2 in the North Point area that were approved. Those are both, like I said, medium-density projects with lot sizes that are a lot smaller than what we see typically here in town. That is a medium-density area. And then the last project, there's one in the pipeline right now with the submitted application, and that's the Pereira subdivision. It's located between North Ripon Road and John Roos Avenue, just north of Bosch Drive, looking at about 47 lots there. And the lots range in size from about 6,500 square feet up to 15,500. So that again is kind of one of our low-density residential subdivisions. That's kind of what we have quite a few people looking for, is those size lots and such. That's it. Ta-da. So if you have any questions on either one, this is a public hearing for the development agreements, if there's anybody who wants to get up and speak about those. But if not, like I said, I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Mayor, if you guys have any questions.
Does the council have any questions for Mr. Zadivart?
I have one.
Councilman Zuber?
It's on page 125. At the bottom. One sentence says there's 10 development agreements. The very next sentence says there's 9. And then I read the rest of it and I couldn't figure out what happened.
My fingers didn't type the right number. The 10 was a typo on the staff report. So there's actually 9 active development agreements that are, I guess, what we still consider active. When they're 100% built out, we don't terminate development agreements. We just let them lapse in time. So I'm not necessarily say they're active, but they still are kind of on the books until they expire in time. But a lot of parts of the development agreement do run with the land forever. Say there's setback requirements and such within a development agreement. Those are always going to apply to a subdivision. So
if there's a requirement in there, somebody's bought a house, lives there for 15 years and decides to add on or something, is the controlling language that placed that house on that lot is still in effect?
correct.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
All right. If that's it, seeing nobody else on the council, I will go ahead and open the public hearing up to the public for any comments. Please come up to the podium, state your name and address. Seeing none, we will go ahead and close the public comment section of the public hearing, and we will turn it back over to the council. Yeah, you can move it. So we got a mover?
Yeah, it's under the recommended action, just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, well, accept the report.
We got a motion, we got a second? Perfect. Community Development Block Grant and Home Programs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll take that one too. Every February, we go through this same process where we have a public hearing to allocate the next year's funding, CDBG funding to projects. This year, again, we're slated to be looking at getting the same amount as we did last year, roughly $85,000 or so in CDBG funds, of which about $70,000 can go to what we consider public works projects. And then there's another, where's that other part there? 12,000 such for public service projects, or public service projects here in town. So we're looking to actually, if you go to the back page here, allocate the funds again to the Ripon Senior Retrofit project that we had allocated the funds to last year. We need to kind of pile up a little bit more money to tackle that project. So we will be looking at awarding those funds to that. And then the public service programs, We always get one here locally from Bethany Home, which we administer the contract for. They ask for $5,000, which is the minimum you can allocate out to a public service program per contract. The other amounts on there are actually administered by the county. The county, several years back, decided to actually do the contracts themselves rather than every city duplicating the contract for each of these service agencies who serve, say, Ripon, Manteca, Stockton, and Tracy. So they're allocating the contract, which means they're only asking for a little bit of money from Ripon. Other towns, they might be asking more depending on who they serve or how many they serve. So that the contract that the county's writing is actually a lot bigger. It's just including the allocation amounts that we have in here, even though they're under the 5,000 for us. So we are looking to allocate out the roughly $12,000 to the ones listed here in the staff report. And that's about it. There is a kind of a drawing in there of what the proposed senior center retrofit is supposed to look like. They're looking to add a covered patio out front. So it's like a floor plan with that and some elevation drawings that have been put together by SKW and Associates, who we hired to do the work. They will be putting together a bid packet for this project as well, so we can go out to bid for it. So with that being said, I will turn it back over to you, Mr. Mayor, if you have any questions.
Yes, go for it.
Can I get a little confused when I read this, because it said, one of the paragraphs says that the Department of Housing and Urban Development administered the county, blah, blah. Ripon an estimated 84,553, and then down 2 paragraphs below it says we're slated to get 85,553.
All right,
And then your chart shows 84,553.
it should be 84.
84, okay.
Fingers weren't working that day, apparently.
No, I wasn't sure if I was missing something.
No. And those actual amounts do vary a little bit by the
Yeah.
time they actually come up with the funding, which is usually around September timeframe. Sometimes those vary a little bit. Last
Because
year-
they don't know what they're getting yet.
No,
either,
they
right?
don't. It comes from the federal government.
Yeah.
So this amount that we're talking about is the next fiscal year,
Correct.
2021.
Yes.
So based on what I read in there, we have about $106,000 towards that retrofit now. This money comes in, we'll raise it to 177.
Correct.
And is that about what we think the retrofit's gonna cost?
We're not sure what it's gonna cost till we go out to bid for it. I think we're
Okay.
gonna need every bit of the 177,000 to
Well,
tackle
because
it.
the reason I'm getting to the real question, the staff report listed 3 things we wanted to do at the senior center. One was, what was the first, I don't remember what the first thing was, but it's done,
Yeah, air conditioning.
air conditioning. Then there's a retrofit and there's flooring. So far, the flooring's not done either. So is it coming after we get the retrofit done?
If they're gonna be doing some modifications of some walls or such in there, we don't wanna obviously disturb any new flooring we have, so we'll tackle that with the retrofit.
So in other words, our CDBG money is gonna be going to the senior center for a while.
Yeah, at least this next year. If there's anything left over, we can always allocate it to another future
Right, no, I
project, so, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
As this is a public hearing, I will open it up to the public for comments. As before, please step up to the podium, state your name and address. Seeing none, we will go ahead and close the public comment section of the public hearing for 3B and turn it back over to the city council. So we have a recommended action of approve 2021 CDBG and the home program funding allocations and direct staff to process the necessary documentation with San Joaquin County to facilitate this grant program. We got a mover, and we got a second.
Have you ever been an auctioneer?
There's one taking place. All right, moving on. 4A, agricultural lease agreement.
Why don't I take this one too?
Inside of Art, you're up again.
So the DeYoung brothers have been leasing the orchard out there around the new volleyball indoor volleyball complex for quite some time. Actually, Travail Pippin was leasing it for a while, decided to step away from it because it wasn't profitable anymore. The city at that point put it out to bid in, I think it was the 2007, after the 2017 crop, Travail Pippin stepped out of the lease. We stuck it out to bid for a while. Nobody stepped up to bid on it. So we sat for a while with nobody maintaining the orchard. Before the 2018 crop hit, DeYoung Brothers came forward and negotiated a lease with the city, which has been in place since then, which was a 90-10 split. The orchard was in fairly bad shape. It continues to deteriorate. There's some challenges with it. Also with replanting it, because typically when somebody wants to replant an orchard, from a farming perspective, they want a 20-year lease so they can recoup their costs back. We can't lock that property up for that amount of time because we don't know when we're gonna need more property to do projects on if we ever have something that steps forward. So with that being said, since they couldn't replant it, we did a 90-10 split. The orchard's gotten worse since then, and we've taken actually quite a bit of acreage out with the building and the parking lot. So their proposal to, with the property would be to just take care of the property, take 100% of the crop, but then we're not maintaining it. So that's one of the options in here for you as one of the options for the council. It's what the staff is recommending. There's actually a couple other options in the staff report. One is to fully remove the orchard, which would be about $8,600 to take the orchard out. But then on top of that, now we're gonna be maintaining an open vacant field. And also there's quite a few houses to the east of that, which are gonna get quite a bit of dust probably, and a fair amount more noise, I would imagine, coming from the sports park without that buffer there. So that would be another option for the council, is to remove the orchard. Another option that we're not recommending would be to just, is to leave the orchard and have the city's public works department maintain it. We are not farmers.
Doesn't sound bad.
James, you got plenty of time.
What do you think, James? Does it sound good to you?
So that was another option that's up, what's in the staff report for you, and the last option is the one that we kind of gone through, is to let the DeYoung Brothers continue to farm it and take 100% of the crop. So we're not making any money off it, but we're not maintaining it either at this point. So those are the three options here in front of you. Unless you guys have another option you want to throw out there, but that's our recommendation. And
We just burned up the amount of money we'd make just talking about it for 10 minutes with all the money in this place.
How many acres?
I'd say let them take it and thank them for doing it, would be my
How many
recommendation.
acres are left?
there's about 11 acres left.
But it's terrible. It's in
My
terrible
only
shape.
thought would be this, is why could, I mean, if we took out, because this is eyesore, 'cause it does look bad. And, so if we took it out and then leased it out to a row crop farmer, is that an option?
No, I mean, Kevin might be able to speak about that a little bit. We've tried to do that with, in the previous years. We didn't have anybody want to farm that.
No, and
You'd
the
have to
school
irrigate it
district
and
that
everything
owns
else.
the orchard behind it, and they took it out and tried for 3 years to lease it to a row crop person, and it's not big enough.
Not to make it,
And so
not
they
to
ended up
just.
replanting it anyway, so
It's not big
I
enough and
wouldn't-
you have to irrigate it.
It ended up being a weed patch and
Yeah.
a dust source.
When we went out to bid, what Ken referenced a couple of years ago, we left it open to whatever they wanted to do. And Van Groningen looked at it for pumpkins, and they leased the other city property off of River Road, but we're not, Jacktown River, not interested in this one though for that.
So what was your first option? I'll go with that.
There's to approve and authorize the amended lease agreement with the DeYoung Brothers.
Yeah, well, I'll make that motion.
That motion, we get a second. Let me pull it up for everybody. Done. Go. All right, 4B.
Or not to be.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, I just wanted to update the city council and the public on the general fund budget. There's three things I wanted to cover tonight. One was just summarizing where we ended up with the fiscal year 18-19 general fund. Next one was to talk about the surplus options. I do have at least a first recommendation for input from the city council, what they would desire to see done with the surplus. And then lastly, just update you where we're at with the current fiscal year. We're halfway through that, so just show you how we're doing. Similar graphs you've seen in years past. This is the operational revenue and expenses of the general fund. Does not include any transfers. The dark blue line was the balance over the fiscal year for fiscal year 18-19. The lighter blue line is the balance from 17-18. You can see they match very closely throughout the year. They both ended up at the end of the fiscal year with about $1.3 million surplus. The one thing is always interesting about this, you can see the second half in the fiscal year is where we get all of our revenue. In the first half of the fiscal year, we run a deficit. The deficit actually gets down to about a little bit above $1.45 million.
So is January and February splitting of property taxes? Is that what that is? And then May and June is the other?
If I remember right, 1 month of that is property tax. The other one I think is motor vehicle in lieu fees. That's when we get a large payment from that as well. And then we get our second half of property tax in June, May or June, something like that. But yeah, second half of the year, we're getting large revenue payments. Right.
So we're doing good.
A little bit more detail. Lisa and I always go back and forth. I like graphs. They paint a picture. Lisa likes numbers, so it's kind of getting both of the ways we look at it. But this compares 17, 18, 18, 19. I'm not going to go through all of the numbers, but you can see the revenue is up 3.2%, expenses up 4.3%. So we have seen that the last couple of years where the year-to-year expenses have been increasing at a higher rate than revenue. And then you can see the differences in the total surplus. Like I said before, that's before any of the operational transfers have happened. So for 17-18, the $47,000 you see transferred, that was essentially for the landscape maintenance districts that operate in a deficit. Those were transferred to cover those annual expenses. That left a net surplus of about $1.3 million. For 18-19, there were two items that were included in that operational transfer. One was a transfer to the general fund capital account. That was $560,000, and that was, we started in 18-19 making that transfer as part of the budget, because that's just to fund future capital expenses like the police cars, lawn mowers, computers, et cetera. So just starting to put that money away to fund those expenses.
So that's an aggregate, various different areas.
Exactly, it is. And the other item that is a part of that is also includes landscape maintenance districts. But one of the things that we did in 18-19 is it wasn't the full cost. We only transferred about $15,000 in 18-19. Another $30,000 was made up with the accounts that had an overall balance. They had a year-to-year deficit, but they did have a balance in those accounts. So we've been using that until that runs out. And then that had a net surplus of about $706,000 that we'll talk about in just a second here. This is a more detailed summary of the revenue. Just a couple things I would point out. The top three lines are our largest revenue sources. Again, very positive year-to-year increases in those, really a sign of where the economy's at and how well the economy's doing. The other one I would mention, fuel cells, licenses, rents, and leases. You can see a 10% reduction there. That was really $70,000 from back taxes that we got in 17-18 as additional revenue, not normally what we get. So the 18-19 number is what you could expect going forward. If there's any other questions, I could answer it, but just a breakdown of the revenue that we receive.
So sales tax, that's the gas tax as well, correct?
Yes.
What's a MV in lieu
Motor vehicle in lieu, it's money we get from the state,
registrations?
yes.
And interest,
That much
that's
money?
increased that much? Rates haven't moved that much. Do we just have more money in there?
Partly because of money in our investment accounts and then slight increases, but increases in interest.
What, under police activities, what generates income?
A number of different items. I did look at that one too. That, if I remember right, the difference between the 2 years was we didn't get some of the grant funding that we've gotten in the past. But that's anywhere from the revenue we get from tickets, from the animal shelter, from, Lisa, you remember off the top of your head everything included in police activities?
These activities?
The COP grant?
Sounds like you need to have a bake sale, chief.
And then under miscellaneous income,
That reduction was,
I'm not worried about the reduction, I'm worried, what constitutes miscellaneous income?
there's not too much left in there. One of the biggest items that we get is housing income. So years ago, before the recession, the city used to take general fund money, and employees could request to borrow that money for whether it's housing improvements or to purchase a house, I believe. So part of the miscellaneous income, I've included the housing income as part of that.
Repayment of those loans.
Repayment of those loans, yes.
All right.
So the sales tax, that's all, does that include the additional SB one money we're getting too?
No, that would not, this is only general fund revenue sources.
Oh, that's sales tax? That's not gas tax?
This is, the sale of fuel will be part of that, but SB one is street and road money, so it'll be
Okay.
part of our
Gotcha, okay.
street and road fund.
Kevin, RDA, is that still gonna be in our future? Or is there any indication that the state's given that they're gonna get closer and closer to pulling that money?
You know, at some point, we're gonna lose it. The timeframe
Yeah.
for that, it's unclear.
Okay, still, yeah. Okay. Anybody else?
We have
So that
bonds
number,
out
if we get
for,
another 250, that number looks a little bit better, right?
No, so that's.
It would go
yeah.
away.
Yeah, so no, that's the
Zero.
difference, that's the year-over-year change from right there. So that's what that's what we got last year, yeah.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
I'm reading they're talking about bringing back RDA.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next, this is just a summary of expenses. This is by department, and you could see the difference between 17, 18, 18, 19.
Wow, look at the second line.
What?
I'm kidding, I'm just kidding.
There's some of this that varies. You know, that one does vary because we had a lot of rain one year and a lot of time goes into getting Michelin ready. So, if there's no questions on this one, I can get to,
Looks like the cops are losing us a lot of money. They only brought in 500 and we're paying out 6.
6 million.
Well, that's always the highest cost.
No, I get it. I'm being like you.
So this is where we get to the recommended surplus allocation. Again, there's no action needed on this tonight. It's really just to show, at least from staff's perspective, what we were looking at, but also get input from the city council. And we'll bring this back in March for action. Right now, $423,000 would go to reserves. Right now, there is a policy in place that would allocate 33% of that to the Street and Road Reserve Fund. That brings that total balance after the transfer to $2.16 million. The other one, I went back and I looked at the different liability funds that we set up, was a year or 2 years ago, and the criteria that we use in those funds. So one of the ones that stood out to me was the CalPERS Liability Fund. The criteria that we used to set the balance, the target balance for that, was 3 years of unfunded liability. Looking ahead at, or looking at our most recent actuarial report, that number's just over $1.1 million. Our current balance in that fund is $941,000. So if we were to transfer $190,000 to that fund, it brings your balance at or a little bit above our target balance.
Keeping in mind, though, that three-year unfunded is gonna grow over time.
It does,
Yeah.
right, so every,
So we're okay.
right, right, and that is exactly what's happened, the actuarial gives us more than 3 years, but it does go up over time. The other part of this, I just talked to the different department heads about capital projects. The projects that we've been talking about, the community center obviously has had no improvements. I don't know how old the community center tennis courts are, 30 years, maybe more.
We've worked on them in the past, so.
We've done different work on them. They've had very large cracks. We've been having a company come out and fix those cracks. And then most recently, when we had them come out to do it, and they had a system that was specific to tennis courts. It wasn't just crack filling, but they filled the crack, they put something over the top, and then they repainted everything. It was, it worked fairly well for many years. 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, we had them come out and look at the tennis courts, and he said, I no longer could fix those cracks. They're just too much, too big.
Are they used a lot?
They're used a lot.
Yeah.
So when we talked about changing the parking lot and pavers and all that, that only affected the baseball field, not the tennis courts,
Right,
correct?
right. So part of this was allocating money towards the tennis courts. We believe the total cost is $350,000, but, you know, at least start putting money towards that project. Cabinets at the animal shelter, they're damaged just from water. They're wood cabinets, and when they get sprayed and washed down, they need to be replaced with cabinets that could be in that type of environment. Metal cabinets, yes. So that'd be $25,000. And then the police shooting range, there'd be $75,000 there. And I believe that was towards the targets, fixing all the targets, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it's to replace all the existing targets that are non-functioning and to add additional lanes.
No, they're terrible. All you have is rebar standing up. Bad shots.
And it costs $75,000 to do that?
Yeah, the current system down there is pneumatic, and when they installed them back in early 2000, they buried all the lines, and those lines have developed holes, and the actuators are non-functioning. So these are going to electromagnetic solenoids that would be able to be operated through a remote control or your smartphone, and targets would be able to be turned 360 degrees either way. Currently, none of them are functioning. We have 8 lanes. This would actually expand it to 10 lanes and replace all those targets. And it would be something that would be able to stand up to the inclement weather, whether heat or rain.
Don't you also have other departments use it? Do they actually pay a fee? Isn't there some sort of income that's generated out there too?
Yeah, currently, Manteca Police Department rents a facility from us. They do pay an annual fee. Then the combined Manteca Ripon SWAT team also use it, but there's no fee charged in that because we're part of the team.
But they're gonna get such
So
a nice
the money
rate.
that comes from Antica, where does it go?
General fund revenue.
Maybe we ought to look at it, setting some sort of a sinking fund up. I mean, if the shooting range is gonna incur costs, rather than depending on the reserves at the end of the year to keep it up, maybe we ought to start designating some of that money.
Right.
How much you
Use
get?
it, it just becomes a fund that we can dip into stuff instead of waiting for a good year to pay for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dedicated
Yeah, Mike, that's my
CapEx.
question is how much are we
Dedicated
generating off that?
Right now, we collect $7,500 per year. And again, the last time that the targets were addressed was roughly 2000. So you get about 20 years out of it.
Of course, they're gonna get such a much nicer range, they would probably pay twice that just
Right.
to have the opportunity to shoot down there, huh?
Right.
We've discussed about increasing the fees.
And certain councilmen probably like it better too, maybe they could do something.
Private range days?
I will say that one of the things I hear a lot about are those tennis courts.
Yeah.
And I mean, this gets us halfway there. We need to start
Yeah.
looking for the other half, because they're unusable now.
You know what I hear about is that the older people play.
Pickleball?
Pickleball.
Yeah, that's
Same
right.
I hear from
Yeah.
the people about the pickleball.
Right.
Yeah, they get a lot of use, and Kai is planning to apply for a grant in April. So that's coming up, so we're hoping that if we're successful, we'll also go towards that project, so.
Sounds good.
Gets us in
Just
the
a
right direction.
portion or make up the balance?
Try to get as much as you can.
Yeah, I think what he said, if I remember right, it doesn't quite get us to the full cost.
Okay, but it gets us close.
We can
Is
divert
he checking
council
both state and
stipends to pay
federal?
for the
Hey,
rest.
you know, hey,
Yeah,
that's
this
fine.
is state.
Well, the sooner you fix it, the better off you are, because it's just gonna deteriorate more.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
when we came in, because I remember this coming up in discussion years ago, and we bit the bullet and did it. But, boy, then we had like people rampage in the council meeting because the tennis players, you like tennis, you want a tennis court.
Well, you don't wanna hurt yourself either.
Yeah.
Once we get word back from the grant, see if we're successful or not, we could update the city council where we're at with that project and options to fund it. Any other discussion, input? I don't only need tonight. If you think of something after the meeting, feel free to tell me, but this was just for input tonight. Lastly, the last slide I had is just updating you where we're at, 1920, very similar format before, just tracking how the current fiscal year compared to last fiscal year. Through December, you could see we're still very much on track to where we were last year. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
You know what'd be interesting to see on this, you give us the previous one, you start from July to June. What would be interesting to see is if you go from like June to June. Because when you show July, you start out at the bottom and you show the decline.
Oh, to see
But if
the-
you saw the previous June, you'd see this.
Right.
I'm just saying, if you added a month, it'd be nice.
No.
Yeah, thanks.
Looks good. Anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we will be moving on to department head reports. Chief?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Honorable City Council, members of the public, thank you very much. We do have one item tomorrow night at 7 PM in our Department Emergency Operations Center / training room will be Area of Responsibility Number 1 meeting. It'll be headed by Sergeant Burgos, and everybody's welcome to attend.
Thank you. Mr. Zeidervart?
Yes, we actually have a planning commission meeting coming up on next Tuesday, since Monday's a holiday, and we do have one project slated for that meeting. One of them pushed back to March, which is the gas station at Canal and Jacktone, so they will be going in front of the planning commission in March. The one that'll be next week is a subdivision on, right north of Bosch Drive there. It's gonna be an annexation and a 47 lot subdivision looking to be approved. So that'll be for next Tuesday at 6 o'clock.
Mr. Peace?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, real quick, just wanted to report on our water usage for January. Compared to the 2013 year, we were down 13%. And our running 12-month average is 24% right now. So that was it. Thank you.
Ms. Quillisi?
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report. Councilmember Susha?
Valentine's Day to everybody.
Councilman Euchre?
Nada.
Councilman Zuber?
I had a wonderful time at the fashion show last night. Mr. Zeidervart and his family did an outstanding job. The mayor, he represented well, but I honestly thought he would wear shorts. I was counting on that. The staff at the back of the hall, they were having one heck of a good time, I noticed. And Jim Bodison needs to be recognized.
He did a good job.
You talk about the highlight of the fashion show, he was it. And he needs to be told that. I had several, I couldn't believe it when he came out the first time, and the second time I really couldn't believe what I was looking at. But But it was fun. It was well done.
Better than the Oscars?
It was, very nice. Can I add on to that, though? I just want everybody to know, I'm the only one that wore our 75th anniversary shirt.
No.
Well, besides you. Oh, did you guys wear them? Okay. All right, I didn't see
They
you,
were all
so.
covered up, but they had them on.
Okay, all right.
Vice
So
Mayor-
there was an email that went out. Okay, good. I thought I was the only one that got the email.
Vice Mayor DeGraff?
As usual, thank you to both of you for being here. There's one other gentleman here, I believe, too. That's all.
And I have nothing to report, and with that, we will close the Ripon City Council meeting.